What is up, YouTube? Back in the garage one more time. Top end of the CB350 is done. How about that? Minus the rocker box and all the other stuff that I gotta do tonight. And now we're scrambling. So the rest of this, I'm not gonna re-explain it all that much. Like I said, the springs, as far as I'm aware, the springs go on the inside. You need to make sure that, let me give you one of these. Here's the springs here right now. How I have them set up. This is essentially going to drop in like so. Yeah, but this one looks like I have the springs on the outside. I don't remember how I took this all apart. It does make sense to me the way that this is oriented. I might have to clock them or shift. Oh, yeah, no, that's proper. They're going to sit on the inside here. Which side is that? That's the exhaust side. So the exhaust side, the springs are going to sit on the inside. Intake side, the springs are going to sit on the outside. So let's do one more of these and we'll time lapse the rest of this. Here's your shaft. This is going to go here on the outside. This will go here on the outside. Drop everything. It's good for it. If it doesn't break when you're dropping things, then you're good to go. The pedestal that's going to hit the cam is on the inside. Adjuster's on the outside. That's proper. I'm confident in that. Now on the threaded side, I'm going to leave to the outside. Let's do a little more lube. Like so. Slide this one in. Ooh. I got a little overzealous and don't ramrod it in. Nice and easy. Little lube. Gentle. Like so. There we go. That's that. Let me grab one more of the outer ends just to keep it in place so you guys know what you're doing if you're doing this at home. This will throw it into the outside. I'm not going to torque these down at all because these are coming right back out and getting cleaned up to get all the surface rust off. Make them nice chrome bolts again. That's it. We're going to time lapse the rest of this and then we'll come back when we're ready to put the head on. So trying to lay all of these different parts out, trying to figure out exactly how this went together. I had them all laid out. The problem I run into is I like working on bikes at home and not at the shop. So I boxed everything up together. They stayed together until now. So I know for a fact these springs and rocker assemblies and all of these are correct, but I'm trying to figure out which way the orientation was on this. By looking at this, making a general assessment of my knowledge of how things work, on this one, I'm fairly confident the springs go towards the shouldered boss. And everything on the rocker shafts themselves feel really good. I'm happy and confident on this. I need to duplicate that on this side, which means this should go in just like that. I got the rockers kind of roughly sitting in here, but the shouldered area, I'm assuming, is the springland, but everything's been blasted and coated, so I'm not 100% positive. So if anybody actually genuinely knows that I'm messing this up right now, please, 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 please let me know. I don't mind pulling the rocker off if I need to. Not that I want to, but if it comes to that, and I catastrophically mess this up, going based on my intuition and years of experience of messing around with stupid old motorcycles and bikes, well, this is the wrong shaft anyway. But if I am completely off on this, let me know. Do a little more assembly lube all over the place on this. But I do have confidence. I might, I just did a quick Google search, hoping that there would be a plethora of information available. Apparently CB350Fs are not as cool. Therefore, there is less information, and by that I mean they are substantially less common than the 350 twins. I've done a couple 350 twins in the past. I love those bikes. I still like those bikes. The Fs are just cool to me. And again, all this is going to do is kind of keep tension on the rocker shaft to push it so that it's constantly kind of walking on the cam. It's not stationary in one place. Heat cycles and everything else are going to make these move a little bit more, but it's your valve. So your adjusters are going to hit the top of the valve. This is going to hit the top of the valve. This is going to ride in the camshaft. Nice soft lobe here. So that's good. I'm confident with this right now. But if anybody can give me the reassurance, that would also be much appreciated. And we're going to ship it just like this. So I'm going to keep the high boss side, which logically, manufacturing, machining wise, makes sense. Keep your high boss and the spring on the bigger perch, like so, just like that. Now we have all of this done. Not worried about the valve adjustment until this goes back onto the motor. We'll do a final valve adjustment. We also had one of these covers for the valve adjusters that was completely destroyed when we took it apart. I'm not happy about it. I really wanted to save it. I got it out, but the edge is so rounded off it's completely non-adjustable and ruined. So, loaded rocker boxes minus these two bolts. Second fact of the evening. Here's the head. I have one more bolt and one more washer here. So we will put this on the exhaust side. Why not? Doesn't really matter. I am short one of these. I also have one actual chrome Harley FLH excuse me, FLH oil tank drain plug. That's this one. So guy came back, we just finished up an oil tank for a guy. I had the hardware sitting on there. I meant to put it back. I wasn't at the shop today. He came by. Justice found the other bolt. This is not it. This is a Harley pitch, Harley thread bolt. I would have given him this one. He's not as good about threads and hardware as I am. But they look, I mean, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Those don't look too far off at first glance. If you know what you're doing, you would notice, but he doesn't. This doesn't work, so I'm short one bolt. I gotta wait. Luckily, that's a good customer of mine. in the area, local guy. He's been there a ton. Known him for a long time, so not that big of a deal. I just gotta shoot him a text. He'll run that back. We'll trade those out and be well on our way. Now we're ready to throw this back on the bike. A little bit of grease here, nothing too crazy. There's not a paper gasket on this at all. It is completely reliant on the O-ring itself. So all I'm doing is grabbing some grease, packing it into the grooves of the O-ring, and if this gets into the motor, it really doesn't matter all that much because it's an O-ring. But if you haven't used O-ring seals before, one of the advantages of going about it this way is the grease is so sticky and tacky that it will actually bind the O-ring in place, especially around these bends and the weird parts. I'm not saying coat the whole thing in grease, that's completely unnecessary. But if I can get it into specific spots, like so, around, especially around the bends and the corners and stuff, that will do wonders. In terms of staying in place while you're trying to put it back on. It will also significantly help with, one, the O-ring not binding up or getting cut when you do the install. And last but not least, it breaks down when it goes inside the actual motor and the motor gets run. The grease will still break down. Like, that was way too much there, but like I said, I just want to make sure that the gasket stays in place when I start trying to pound this on. If it fights me at all, I'm guaranteeing I'm not going to be the most gentle about making sure that everything goes on and seats the way it should. We do have assembly lube on the cam journal sections where the motor is actually going to reconnect to the cam. Nothing's new there. If you've been watching the channel for a while and followed any of the Ford build on the Falcon motor or anything else, along with, I hate saying this as a younger guy because I feel like the old timer's like, I've broken in a million cams and never had a problem. I wish that were the case. That was the first ever solid tappet cam rebuild I've ever done, and it grenaded. But I don't necessarily take full responsibility. Maybe that's the millennial thing. Let's blame everybody else in manufacturing and all these other people. That's what I said until it happened to me, and whatever. Not blaming other people. I don't really care all that much. It's not the end of the world, but it's frustrating. Either way, back to the Honda. Not going to go on another tangent here. Gaskets are loaded. I'm going to get the gasket in, and then I'm going to rewipe the surface. So this is what came in the box. I don't know how this goes. I'm guessing that these two spots go up here. I'm playing the guesstimate game. I don't know if the Honda gaskets are the actual Honda name brand OEM gaskets are any better, or if they're even available. I didn't go too crazy in terms. Oh, we do have the little detents right here, actually. I don't know if that showed up on camera. I'll show you this right here. I thought that was just a little casting imperfection. Nope, that's supposed to be there. So that's your guide in terms of what the stretch is going to end up being on the gasket, which we're pretty dang close. So we'll grease the hell out of this, pull everything into place like so, make sure it seats into the groove. The goofy part when you're doing big O-ring gaskets like this is if you put tension on them, like if I pull this tight, it thins out and wants to spread farther. In this case, with a brand new gasket, I don't want it to spread out or to thin out anywhere. All I want is a nice, good coating, like so. And now that it's seated, we'll put some grease all around this. It's going to make a big old mess when we go to final assemble and fire this. If it smokes a little, whatever, we can deal with that. But here, I'm going to pull it down a little bit. And again, there's probably a million Honda people rolling over in their graves saying, I can't believe you just did that. This is how I've always done them. I've never had any problems. If it works, cool. If it doesn't work, I'll let you know. I'm recording and can back it up. If you guys can't, fine. But I'm going to give this a quick wipe down because I don't need... There's a copious amount of grease on this. Don't need to go too crazy here. So, just a quick little wipe down here, but the gasket is in place. Everything else is done. We are ready to drop this right onto the motor. Head is done. Assembled. Dowel pins are in. These are all torqued. Oil jets are in between the head and the cylinder. Oil passages. I don't know what the names of any of these are. I know that this is a rod from an oil feed hole that runs all the way across. There's 2 drilled holes on this shaft, so this will send oil right to this cam lobe, this one, this one. So all 4 of these cam lobes are getting direct oil from this passage. Again, not a Honda guy. I don't know what this is called. But if I was nicer or cared more, I would have cleaned my hands up a little bit more while we switch around at the top of the head. O-ring is seated and greased. Cam lobes are loaded. I do actually want to be a little over the top. I don't know if this is fully necessary, because we did load the bottom of the head. However, in my opinion, and I know it's not exactly the most accurate, and on this motor, the motor and trans are wet, but we're going to put this on here, load it up with assembly lube. That's way more than you would ever possibly need. I'm not going to re-rotate the motor or anything else like that, but I did want to load up the cam prior to rotating it around. On this, it's not like a car where you have to slip it in and hit all the journals, kinda, sorta. But now we got fresh lube and assembly on the rockers, fresh lube on the cams. Head will go on now, and then we'll figure out the bolts. Also have the journals. The journals are the biggest part. The rockers are important, but not nearly as much. But the O-ring is on, which means this should drop right down in place like it did. And we are ready to throw the bolts in and snug this down. If you're better at this than me, you'd be a little bit more organized. Here is what we're looking at on the motor. Here is my hardware. I've been kind of laying all of these different parts out. That's why the breather cover's up here. I just bagged everything. I figured I'd go through and do this process later anyway. But I am going around pushing bolts through every one of these to try and figure out roughly how many threads I expect to be on each one. I don't know exactly what it is, but I know that if I grab one of these bolts and it's sticking up way too tall, I got a problem. So I'm just kind of laying all of these out, and I might mess it up, and I might have to redo a ton of these. Like that one's way farther. That one's okay. That one's okay. And that's about where I want it to be. Which means that these outer corners are a little bit longer of a hardware piece. Then we run into the middles, and that's the part that I'm not exactly sure. So I'm kind of just measuring, laying out what seems proper, what doesn't seem proper. This upper cover, so here's the really long bolts that I had in the bag. These are the ones that bolt the head down in the center. Breather cover is going to go on top of that, and then we got 1, 2, 3. I think these ones should all be about the same length too. Why am I missing one? Alright, looks like I'm short 1 bolt, but as far as I'm aware, this is pretty much how the rest of this will lay out. I'm going to have to find one more metric bolt. I don't know if it's in one of the bags or in one of the boxes. There's a good chance I lost one, which really kind of sucks. But it's also a split build between half done here and half done at the shop. So before I go any further, I will double check on the table. I got one table of parts sitting at the shop right now. But I think overall, this is about right. The head itself, if we drop this back down, is sitting pretty close to flush around the block, with the exception of the slight little gap we have in between the head and the case. Well, that's perfectly normal because the Valvetrain is now connected to the motor, which means that when I go through and start tightening these down, it's going to put tension on these valve springs. The way to avoid that, which I'm going to do when I actually snug all this down for final torque, is loosen up the nuts on the valve. I'm going to leave the Valvetrain completely free and loose, so you will be able to rotate the motor over and none of the valves will open. You will have full compression on all the cylinders, in theory. And then we'll go through and do an actual valve adjustment the right way once everything else is snugged down. So, thanks for watching. Hit that like, comment, subscribe button, any of those fun things. If I did something wrong that you caught, please let me know, because it's not fully done and back in the bike, and I would love to know if I messed up prior to reinstalling this into the frame and then realized that I drastically screwed something up. If it looks good or you're enjoying any of the information, hit that subscribe button. Costs you nothing, means millions to me. Trying to grow the channel, trying to do all this other stuff. Honestly, right now I'm trying to scramble to get done with the Honda stuff so I can go back to the Harley stuff that I really enjoy. Oh well. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys on the next one. If you want the full entire, you want to know every detail when you're going into this, stick around. That'll be a second video when I do the final head assembly. As of tonight, it will be load the rocker box, drop the rocker box on. Thanks for watching. If you're interested, hit that like button. I appreciate it. It means tons to me. Doesn't cost you guys anything. And if all of this blows up in the next couple of weeks, you get to witness what not to do on a motor rebuild. So thanks for watching. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. Leave me a comment if you got questions, comments, concerns. I'm not an expert with the Honda stuff, but I'm more than willing to try and help out as best I can. Catch you guys on the next one.